Games, board games. We might be talking about Amar, who's over there, but we're not gonna shout. Today I have a brand new guest, and Amar is absolutely the best guest that I've had in at least 12 hours. And I know that's not saying much, but say there's the power of being the only guest in a short duration. But I think that Amar's still brilliant, and let's get deeper into this situation of Amar being brilliant, and let's talk about why Amar is brilliant. Anyway, so good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. It's 10 a.m. UK time for Betty Beats and Board Game Blether, episode 925, meeting Amar Chandara, Chandarana.
Chandarana, yeah.
Chandarana. Sorry, I'm putting the stress on the wrong bit. Um, and you're the co-creator of the forthcoming Cake of Doom game, which I believe is going to be going live on Kickstarter next Friday.
It is, yeah.
And I thought it would be interesting to talk about how your professional project manager experience has influenced this. I mean, everyone's got experience that sets them up for success. And given that all your social medias are Cake of Doom game, does that mean that this is destined to be your only game, or are you going to become like Exploding Kittens who say, well, we are named after Exploding Kittens, but at the same time, we do make lots of other games. And yeah, I just thought it would be nice to talk about you as a person and how you came to be where you are. But first off the bat, what would you like people to know about you?
What would I like them to know about me? Oh, what a fantastic question. What would I like them to know? Well, I would like them to know that I'm actually super pumped for this week. I'm super pumped for next week, even. We are heading to Aircon, and it is interesting. We've done a lot of reflecting on, obviously this process and what we love. And I think for me, the bit I've loved the most is going to cons. We met at a con, actually. In fact, I think we met at Aircon last year. So, yeah.
That might be true.
I think if I remember correctly, we came for a one-day playtest, and you and Pearl were standing outside near the food trucks, and that is where I remember meeting you. At least that's my first memory of you.
I mean, I had met Pearl before at Jugged Hair, and I played. Was it early 2022 that I played Cake of Doom with Pearl? Is that when Pearl would have been testing it, I assume?
Yeah.
And it was a very nice game. There was already a good amount of art. It was very much in a state where it felt done, but there was still a wee bit of refinement. And it was like, hey, this is what we want to present to the world. It felt like you had a story, you had a concept, and you just felt like the world was waiting for a game about hostile takeover using cake.
We've thought that since the moment of inception, really. This is what the world is waiting for. You're absolutely right. I think we have had the theme, the concept for quite some time. It seemed obvious to me. I mean, when Pearl and I first
hostile takeover using cake. Because when you say this seems obvious to me, are you saying that this is something that you've engaged with in your day-to-day life? Are you going around aggressively foisting cake upon other people? Are you going around threatening them with cake? You say, if you don't do this, you will get cake.
I have not done that, but I have, in much more subtle ways, taken cake to work and inevitably tried to win over some friends. I think that's what everyone's doing. When someone brings in treats to work, my first question is, what are they trying to take over? Because that's the only instinct I have, frankly. Cake must mean takeover. So when we started talking about aliens doing a hostile takeover of Earth, I thought the natural thing to use, And I don't know why Hollywood hasn't come up with this, because every movie with aliens is like guns, but that is bonkers. The thing to do is cake, in my view. Yeah.
I mean, I just want to take a step back and say, in all sincerity, I've never worked in an office environment. I've worked in retail, I've worked as a waitress, I've been a packer of stuff, but is that actually really true? That cake is the political maneuver to say, hey, I want to curry favor or I want to do something. Is that really the way it goes?
I imagine that some people do it in other ways. I suspect some people just do a good job at work. I'm sure that some people just perform in meetings. But I think this is my theory, and I'm going to claim it. I'm going to put it on
And this is
Wikipedia.
completely serious.
This is completely serious. I think there is a cohort, perhaps slim cohort of people who are currying favor through sweet treats.
Mm-mm-mm.
I just have to believe that.
I mean, it kind of makes sense. It says, "Hey, here's a way to win your heart." I mean, to say, "Hey, here's some sugar. Come on, here's some honey, honey. Here's some sugar, sugar." And
They're perhaps not quite that direct, but yeah.
well, you don't necessarily say the words out loud,
Mm,
but the actions are there, right?
it's in the actions. Actions
Mhm.
speak a thousand words. So I'm pretty sure some of those words are "here's some honey, honey."
Okay, so let's take a tiny step back and let's talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights, playing games and other delights. Recent highlights. And talking about cake, Elaine says, I was always told to take good biscuits or cake, not any Tesco value nonsense on your first day of a new job. So it makes absolute sense to me. I may
There we
have
go.
inserted the word absolute there, but I think the sentiment remains. Um, and it's, as always, lovely to have you join us. And um, yeah, so recent highlights. What have you been up to in the past couple of days? I am curious to know. Myself, much of it, and I'm just loading these pictures, was spent at daytime playtesting on the Friday, where I go every Friday. I will say that the one downside I had in the morning was bike puncture. I had
Ooh.
to I'll admit, I know it's not good for the bike, but I did sort of cycle on a mostly flat tire. I kind of alternated between cycling and walking because I didn't want to walk for the whole half hour and then be an hour late for playtesting.
Mm.
But instead, I kind of alternated. I paid the 20 quid to get someone else to sort it out, which was faster than if I'd done it myself. And then I ended up being only just half an hour late to playtesting. And honestly, the price of it reminded me how good cycling is
Mm.
because out that's the first time I've spent money on the bike since for at least 9 months. And if you think about all the money that I've saved
Mm.
in public transport, it's just amazing. And so, yeah, we had a lovely day. But while I'm getting the photos up, what were some of your recent highlights, Amar?
Recent highlights. Well, as you would imagine, a lot of my time recently has been spent talking to wonderful people in the board gaming community. Actually, I was on Room 51 where they mentioned your name, and
Oh,
we were talking about some of the art you've done, which super fun. That was a nice. What did that? That started at 11 o'clock at night. So I think by the end of it, I was a bit like, oh, what am I saying? But still, that
nice.
was good fun.
So that was an interview.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Where else? We had a great chat with We're Not Wizards
Mm-mm-mm.
recently.
Yeah, no,
Um,
Richard Simpson is a lovely, delightful person and so good at the gift of the gab.
exactly, yeah. He had some. We had a lot of fun there. I love Bez's art. I love Bez's art. I don't
Oh, thank
know.
you very much to both of you.
So some good fun there. So yeah, just been having some really good conversations, really engaging. People asking pretty uh, some pretty good questions. I mean, I think the natural question always is, where did this concept come from, and how are you all so crazy? But other than that, I think it's been super fun.
Yeah, because everyone's crazy in some ways, aren't they?
I think so. I think so. I think you have to be. I think I did hear a joke once that said you're the idea of being normal, you're not normal, you're just ordinary. Everyone who is not normal is extraordinary, and I would love to be extraordinary.
I love that. You're not, I'm going to try and write down that full quote. You're not normal, you're ordinary, and everyone who's not normal is extraordinary.
Exactly. I think
Uh,
that's what I have to tell myself then.
um, or everyone who's abnormal is extraordinary. Maybe that's a
Yeah.
better way of putting it.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, what are some of the other shows that and interviews? Because this is kind of like a whole bunch of media preparations where you're saying, hey, this is something that we're doing and we need people to know who we are. I totally get it. I've been there. Like I've done Kickstarters myself.
Mm,
I've done more than a few. And
really? How many? Did you know?
um for I don't know, more than 10, I think.
Oh my
Uh,
god.
but I've lost count. I'd have to stop and double check. But yes. What are some of the other shows that you've been on? You mentioned Room 51, you mentioned We're Not Wizards, both people that I absolutely love. Who else have you been on? Have you been speaking to the board game community?
I don't think we spoke to the board game. We did speak to Jason and James just yesterday.
Jason
Um,
and James, I don't know them.
Jason and James, yeah.
What's their show called?
You've put me on the spot there. I should know this because we spoke to them literally yesterday. Meeple Minded, of course. Meeple Minded.
Meeple Minded.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to admit, I will definitely be checking them out because I'm not super familiar with them. But
Well, we would have a really good episode with me and Pearl coming shortly, so highly recommend trying that one. But yeah, we had a great chat with them. Ooh. Oh, Bez, I can't hear you.
one important highlight is to remember to stretch, and Amar is just standing up for this entire show. But another thing that I want to talk about is just yesterday's playtest. And it started off, as I said, with a bike issue, me going down, and then finally arriving at 10:30, at which point normally everyone's just chatting. But instead I saw Ellie Dix, David Brain, the two organizers who are usually there just chatting away, but with Mandela also there, co-designer with Ellie Dix on various games, playing through an Jane Austen themed game. And there was lots of interesting stuff going on. I played an auction game by David Brain, here using components from David Brain's other prototype, colored shapes, and tiles that give you one shape and one color that's yours to claim. And, the traditional deck of playing cards, which, if you ever need some numbers, a great thing to have for playtesting. It was a fascinating web of interactions. And meanwhile, Doric was playtesting their trick taking dungeon delving game, which is a wonderful idea. I honestly love this one. Um, and then here we go. This is Ricky Tata's game. So known for quite well known for Coup. This is Ricky Tata's original prototype parts, which I just loved, and I was struggling to wrap my head around this, where you're bribing people, but then the people switch their position, and there's a lot to consider. Honestly, it took me the first round to wrap my head around the rules, and then obviously the rest of the game I still hadn't quite worked out the ramifications of those rules, and then the game only lasts 5 rounds. So, but there was a lot going on, and I myself managed to playtest a game that I've been working on for a wee bit. It's currently called let me know what you think of this name. So I'm thinking of calling it a game about auctioning cubes after winning an auction to become the auctioneer. What do you think of that title?
It has the word auction. If
Three
that's what
times.
3 times, yeah. So that the
I
auctioning
mean,
definitely.
auctions, and auctioneer. Just
Yeah.
to bear in mind. And that's basically what it is all about, because there's two types of auctions. There's blind bids to become the auctioneer, and
Hmm.
then there's the English auctions where the auctioneer tries to sell some cubes and a wee bits of money for some inputs of money, and you get to keep whatever the winning bid is. So the winning bid goes from player to player, but then
Right.
the winning bid to become the auctioneer goes from player to the bank. And so you either become the auctioneer in order to hopefully get money, or
Yeah.
you don't become the auctioneer in order to win the cubes, which give you points, but hopefully you don't overpay. And the winning strategy is usually to do a mixture of the two. But David Brain, who hates auction games, both games tried a weird strategy, and then the second game went all out and managed a masterful play. It was very, very close, but managed to win without winning a single cube. So, yeah,
Wow.
but David Brain was a really good auctioneer of cubes, so just managed to gather so much money that, free money is worth 1 point, so managed to offset it. So, yeah,
Mm.
it was like, and I was saying, should this be a valid strategy in the game? And then everyone said, yeah, absolutely, because it doesn't seem reliable. But the first time someone does it, that's a story you're not going to forget. That's definitely a game I'm going to be launching in a busy bargain bag format at UK Games Expo, where you will have to supply your own cubes, about 15 each of 3 different colors. I assume people have that, and also you'll need some way to randomly pick cubes. I mean, you can use an envelope, you can use a
Mm.
bag from another game. I assume you have stuff. We don't need to keep
Producing.
remaking stuff and tie into, like, it's tied into issues of overconsumption and overproduction with games. Yes, part of it is so I can still offer it at a super cheap price. It's going to be like, yeah, £5 for a first edition Bezzy bargain bag. But
Mm.
you will also be able to play a great game with. I mean, David Brain actually said that for them, the only free auction games that they would play, given how much they hate them, is Modern Art, Medici, and My Game. And they said that they felt like My Game wasn't quite as good as Modern Art. But if I'm being compared in that,
Yeah.
family, then that's pretty good for me.
Yeah. But you're inspiring me there, because I wonder if it's possible to create a set of game rules with with components that people will already have, so that all you buy is a set of rules,
Well,
and you
absolutely. I
supply
mean,
everything.
Don Eskridge um, did the hand games, which is a bunch of, I believe, like 18 games just based on your hands and verbalizing stuff. And so all you need to use is your voice and your hands. And I think there's so many folk games that people can make. But then the problem there is that without something to sell, I mean, this is a horrible word, but it is hard to monetize.
Yeah.
And but for sure, I think there's a strong need for these sorts of games which can be given away freely. And I think that the closest we can really get to that in a way that can also inspire people to really be put a lot of efforts into stuff is maybe in the realms of game systems like
Mm.
the L deck, without wanting to blow my own trumpet too much.
Yeah, yeah. This has opened my eyes, I have to admit. This is a brilliant thought to have. I would love to try some of these hand games.
um, Also, at the end, we played Shaken Not Stirred by Simon Day. And this is again Ricky Tata just being absolutely delighted by the shaking device, where you shake the pieces and then they fall into one of four things before you put them onto one of four. There's a lot of notes, and these are not my notes, these are David Brain's notebooks. I was just really amazed by how
Ah.
complex and indecipherable they all are. Um, Meanwhile, Mandela was playing a Euro game which was absolutely delightful, and as sometimes happens, some of us stayed after the end to play a published game. Have you ever played Through the Desert?
I have not played Through the Desert, no.
So this is a Knizia game from 1998 where you are not a color of desert. I am red in this picture, so I control both the pink camels, the purpley pink camels with the
Mm,
red rider on top, and also in the distance you can see a
yeah.
caravan of green camels and then also a caravan of beige camels, both with a rider on top. Now, your rider denotes that you control those camels, and there's 5 different colors, so everyone's got 5 caravans that they can build up over the course of the game. You 2 caravans of the same color can never touch each other, so you can sort of block one another
Mm,
because they can never blend. They have to stay separate.
yeah.
But then you can come in there with a second color or third color, and there's 4 ways to score. So you can either at the start of the game, there's points where just go onto the place, get those points. Secondly, touch a tree, get 5 points as long as it's with a color that hasn't already touched the tree. Thirdly, at the end of the game, you get points for the biggest caravan of each color. And fourthly, at the end of the game, if you make a enclosed territory, kind of like Go, where you're enclosing the edge or a
Mm,
corner of the board, then you get points for that as well. And it's almost felt a bit point saladish for considering that it's a Knizia game, which is usually a lot more focused than this. But
mm,
it was an absolute delight to play. And even though it is quite an older game, I would say there's enough player chaos to make it really fascinating. It's a perfect information game. So there's nowhere to say, oh, I only lost because of a bad roll of the dice or some bad
mm.
cards. No, I lost this game. I'm going to admit that. I lost this game by a few points, and I lost the game probably because I played worse than everyone else. It wasn't
Mm.
because everyone else was ganging up on me or anything like that. I just chose badly. And next game, I will make better decisions and I will do better. And to me, this is the joy of perfect information games. I don't know how you feel about those combinatorial games that you have no luck to blame.
Well, I love blaming luck. I love blaming luck. Yeah, but I think there is something quite, is pure the right word? Something about a perfect information game where you know everything, everyone else knows everything, and it's simply a case of skill. I love games, but I'll openly admit that I am rubbish at them, and I'm like, quite frankly, I'm terrible. Um, but I don't mind that. I love playing a game. I love playing it the first time. I'm quite happy to lose dramatically, in the belief that next time I will play better.
I mean,
Um,
what draws you to games? Is it the social aspect?
yeah.
Because so you don't care too much about exploring the web of ramifications within the rule set and thinking, you're less engaged in the pondering, would you say?
I think so, yeah. For me, a good game or a good game's night is where you have some fun moments, you have things that are memorable, and you go away thinking, yeah, that was a great night. I don't necessarily feel I need to try and break a game to have a good time. Although, when you do happen to find a way to break a game, I don't complain. But yeah, for me,
And
it's a
by
social aspect.
breaking a game in this context, you just mean finding the winning strategy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I loved I love that feeling afterwards. Obviously, when you've won and you can just lord it over people, but I can accept that I won't win every game. I'll win my percentage. Yeah.
I mean, another nice thing when you've got some people who are playing to win and some people who are maybe just there for the ride is, of course, cooperative games. And I
Yeah.
do want to give a shout out to myself and Kirsten Lunde. I said yesterday in the morning about Questable, which is possibly becoming my favorite LDEC game. And obviously, I'm biased about all the LDEC games, but Questable is a cooperative, mission based word game where 1 to 4 players, and it works fine with all those player counts, 1, 2, 3, 4 plays exactly the same. So in the very easiest mission, which we don't recommend people jump into level 1. It's level 1 is if you're uncomfortable with spelling or maybe English is your second language. Level 1s to 10s are easy mode, and that's with 3-letter words. And then level 11 to 20 is normal mode for people who are comfortable with spelling. Level 21 to 30 for people who want a bit of a challenge, and then so forth up to level 50, which the last 10 levels are diabolical, and we don't expect anyone to start off there. That's like for people who want to fail. But
Wow.
yeah, so recently, Kirsten Lunda came up with this idea of okay, well, currently the game is putting cards down and then making words, and everyone takes turns to put down cards. And on certain levels, it's like, okay, you've got to use certain letters, or here you've got to make sure that there's a pair of letters in a word, or here you've got to make sure that you use the lower letters, which are the more tricky ones to use.
Yeah.
Or here you need to make sure the cards add up to a certain value, which only emerge, or we might remove certain letters from the deck. So you don't get to use any of those S's that you are relying on, just pluralizing things. No, you can't do that. Just we strip them all out from the deck just to make things awkward and to make you have to think about things in a new way. Now, Kirsten Lunda came up with this idea of what if some of the cards get left behind? So each time you claim a word, rather than removing them all, the last card that you place, what if that got left behind? And then that was such a brilliant idea. And then I immediately thought, well, what if the last 2 cards get left behind? What if the first 2 cards get left behind? And whilst everyone else had gone after a game all through the desert, I asked Shu Ting, are you up for a quick game? We played it together. It was just so delightful, so much fun. And then 2 couples around us who were waiting for the theatre said, oh, what's this game? This looks fun. And I said, yeah, this is a cooperative game. Oh, it's cooperative. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And because they feel able to engage, and I said, yeah, it's just 4-letter words, but then they enjoyed playing around, and then we played a third round with them, and it was just delightful. Whilst it wasn't the position where I could really ask them playtesting questions, just having them be so engaged to the point where they were asking, oh, what is this game? I'd really like it. And it was clear that if it had been on the market already, they would have bought it. So that's really absolutely delightful. And it reminds me of the value of playtesting in public spaces.
Yeah, that's true. I'm trying to think of if I have playtested in public spaces. I think mainly at board game cafes. But yeah,
I mean, there's something different when you go to a pub or somewhere where people might be congregating for the theatre and are like, oh, we weren't expecting to play a game, but we do have 30 minutes and why not try something if your game is something that can fit within that quick time around. Anyway, I feel like yesterday was a lovely day. Is there anything that you want to talk about that you did yesterday? Because we talked a lot about me, and I've been talking so much about the playtesting. So thank you for listening to me, Bledder. But was there anything else that you got up to yesterday that you want to quickly share?
Anything I got up to yesterday? Well, we have our weekly meetings on Fridays. So one of the ways that I'm sure we'll discuss this more tomorrow, but one of the ways that we keep ourselves motivated is a nice Friday afternoon meeting. And I must admit, I don't know if I'd admit this to Pearl's face, but I must admit I do look forward to finishing a day of work and then sitting down and thinking about board games. So Friday for me is board game thinking day.
So you go to your day job and then you have a meeting with Pearl. Is that what you mean by your weekly meetings?
Yeah. In the evenings, yeah. So we finish work and then have a little call and have a chat. What's the plan? I mean, a lot of it is a social chat, but of course, we touch on board games, and, keep ourselves organized, and all those project managing things.
I think it's really important to kind of stay connected, and even when there's not that much to update each other with, it can be really nice to say, hey, yeah, we've not done much, but hey, here's how my week was, how was your week? And just accept each other as humans. Would you agree with that?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, these weeks are super busy, but I know there have been periods, especially when we were doing playtesting, we'd chat and we'd say, either I managed one playtest, some days we didn't manage a playtest, we'd talk about the other person's playtest experience, some days we'd just chat. But I think to have that and know that, okay, it's happening on a Friday, and so I either want to aim for that or that's when we'll have our conversation. It's very motivating.
And it can definitely push you to do a little bit more. It keeps the ideas alive.
100%.
I mean, meetings are a brilliant thing, but there are other things in life that are also a brilliant thing. Brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant thing?
Yeah. Do you want my thing?
Yes.
My brilliant thing.
That was me waiting for you, Amar.
I should have picked up that cue. My brilliant thing is a window, or rather a big window. Why is that my brilliant thing? Because I think they are often overlooked, easily overlooked. No one considers a window to be the thing that they enjoy most. But I'm not saying it's the thing I enjoy most, but it's certainly a thing I appreciate. It gives you
Looking
loads
through
of
the window, light, seeing the outside world, being
Yeah.
able to see what the weather is like without actually venturing there. Even if you're sitting inside, you feel like you've got a little bit of connection because not that side, I can see the clouds. I mean, that side, there's a big tall building, so I can't quite see anything unless I go right to the window and then look straight up. But that side, I can see the clouds, and it's kind of a dark and stormy day. So I know, I better wrap up when I go outside, and I'm planning to go to the bank very quickly to just get a little bit of information to Swift code, which apparently I need, so I get paid anyway. So
opening windows, get a bit of fresh air. There's so many good things.
And the fact that they can open and shut, opening and closing mechanisms, so good.
Yeah. And I think it's only when you don't have one, like all good things, it's when you don't have one that you're like, oh, where's the window?
But let's take a moment to appreciate the windows we have. As always, with a meeting someone, I'm just going to talk about you, and feel free to comment, ask questions from like follow. But now we have the surprise section of Questionably Quick Questions is the next section. It's not an interrogation, it's just a Questionably Quick Question section. Questionably Quick Question section. What's your favorite color to play?
Oh God, green.
Green. Books or podcasts?
Podcasts.
What's the last one you listened to?
Oh, that's so boring, but I tend to listen to the FT Weekend.
The what weekend?
The Financial Times Weekend.
The FT Weekend. And who would you recommend that to? Would you recommend it to me?
I would recommend them to anyone. They're informative, but they tend to be on quite a light topic. So that's what I enjoy about them.
Okay. And what was the last game you played?
The last game I played was Decrypto.
Do you think that it is an improvement over Codenames?
Do I think Decrypto is an improvement? I think so, yeah. I do, actually. Yeah, I haven't thought about it like that, but I do like it. I do think it is a bit better.
How about So Clover? Have you played that? And where would that rank in? Because obviously the thing connecting these is that they're all about word association.
I have not played that. What? Give me that name.
So Clover.
So Clover. Okay.
Now, minis or meeples?
Meeples.
How important is environmental concerns to you?
Oh, super important.
And cubes or cards?
Cubes or cards?
Cubes includes dice, but on the regular D6s.
I would have to say cards.
Cards. Okay. And finally, unless anyone else has any questionably quick questions they want to chuck in.
There is a question.
Oh, well, I'm going to ask, what would be an alien's favorite type of cake and why? That is a good question.
Ooh, I think aliens would come here and consider some of our normal cakes to be delicacies. So I would go for the classic chocolate fudge cake, which I think everyone here would have tried. But I reckon aliens take them round to other alien planets, and they're like, "Have you tried this super niche chocolate fudge cake?"
I mean, a good chocolate fudge cake with oozing down and, the moistness and the richness.
Yeah,
Are you imagining quite a dense version of the chocolate fudge cake?
super. A dense version. Yeah, I think you want you want a
What makes a
spongy
good
one.
chocolate fudge? What makes a good chocolate fudge cake is basically what I'm asking.
It's got to be very spongy. I think any good cake actually is super spongy. I love that about them, and it has to have that really rich taste. Like you have the first spoonful, and you're like, mmm. And if you don't get that feeling on the first spoonful, don't have it.
So what you're saying is that if you eat like if someone's offering you cake and then you have a spoonful and you're, would you just put the rest to the side?
Oh, I'm getting myself in trouble now. No, I am super polite. I would eat it no matter what. I also know that I make cakes that feel like bricks, and I force people to eat them. So I would eat any cake given to me.
But maybe if you buy something from a supermarket, don't feel like you have to finish it just because you bought it. If you have it, and Elaine says, no, life is too short for bad cake.
But
I
I can
don't.
only make bad cake. I always try my best, but they do tend to be a little solid.
Why is baking important to you?
Why is it important to me? Because I think, to me, baking suggests a sense of occasion, and it's always something I do around birthdays or to celebrate something. So I love that. My grandmother was a wonderful cook, and she used to make all of our birthday cakes. And it was super weird because she'd put like kiwis on them and other fruit. It was a very classic. You knew that she was going to make you a cake. You knew it would have kiwis. I don't know anyone who likes kiwis, but they'd always be on the cake.
I
And
love
really,
kiwi fruits.
do you?
Yeah,
I did mean
I
the fruit.
mean,
I didn't mean people from New Zealand.
y-
Is it Australia?
yeah, yeah, I understand. Like, you meant kiwi fruits.
I did mean kiwi fruits,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, you don't mean that your grandmother was chopping up people from New Zealand and putting parts and dismembering them and putting. Yeah, this is getting a bit dark. Maybe we should move on.
That's exactly, yeah. I just thought I'd clarify. I don't want anyone to make that mistake.
I mean, I don't think anyone would have made that mistake until we brought it up. I mean, now I've got this vision in my mind, and it's quite horrible. And like, it's
I
a
apologize.
gruesome, grisly vision of your aunt, the macabre butcher. And no, this is not a great image at all. Why
That's
did you
terrible.
bring this up,
I'm
Amar? Are
so
you
sorry.
ashamed of your? Thank you.
I'm
I
so sorry.
appreciate. Okay, we are good. I will forgive you.
Thank
I
you.
forgive you. Okay. Now, Elaine says, when I was a kid, Waitrose used to sell shoe buns full of cream and fruits like kiwis. They were the best, although technically not cake. It's interesting because citrus and dairy, it can kind of clash.
Hmm.
And but if it's kept slightly separate, so like if the kiwis are dried off a little bit before starts off, I think it can go well. Like for sure, if you mix together thoroughly milk and orange juice, that's just a bit
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
But I think it can work. But for sure, I think that more traditionally, something more stodgy, like more sweet, less citrusy, like strawberries, like
Hmm.
I mean, even bananas on the tops. But yeah, raspberries are about as tart and citrusy as I like on a cake, typically, I will say.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it feels like it can sort of start offsetting things. But having said that, you know what? I like the interesting tastes. Um, my question to you, what's the spiciest food you've ever had?
Oh my God.
Do you enjoy spicy food?
Sorry?
Do you enjoy spicy food?
I do like spicy food, but I very recently went to a restaurant for my mother-in-law's birthday, and so I don't have dairy, and so everybody there was eating this incredibly spicy think it was like spicy rice or something. But obviously they were all having a bit of yogurt on the side. It was absolutely fine. I did not. I just went straight for it because I wasn't having the yogurt. And so I was very quietly on the side, tearing up and crying. And yeah, my mother-in-law was very kind. She was like, "Are you okay over there in the corner?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm absolutely fine." But they did get one of the lovely waitresses to bring me a cube of sugar and save me from my pain. So that's a little tip
Wow.
for you.
I mean, dairy on the side always helps. I think that, yeah, other than raw chili peppers, one of the spiciest things that I had, bizarrely, was a curry from Iceland. Now, most of the most spicy curries from Iceland aren't that spicy, like even when you go to the free chili or whatever their maximum is.
Yeah.
But one time they had a limited edition thing, which was like just like clearly marketed on being as spicy as it could possibly be. And it, whereas the normal one, I think it might go up to three. It was like one chili, two chili, three chili. This was four chili, and it was like, okay, I guess it's a little bit spicier. It can't be that bad.
Yeah.
And then they had clearly gone all out, and it was a curry basically intended for one ravenous person or two very not hungry people.
Yeah.
Like, and I had to have this one curry with a bunch of rice, an entire cucumber, and an entire tub of yogurt. It was just that spicy.
Well, I'm glad you had the yogurt.
Yeah, it was the shop, not the thing. And yeah, take your own All-Pro yogurts next time.
I mean, it's a great. It's. I didn't anticipate that situation, but now you will not find me without an Alpro yogurt.
So, I want to ask you, what is your first ever memory that you're willing to share?
That I'm willing to share.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to ask you about memories that you're not willing to share. I just
That
want to
is
make
true.
it clear.
My first memory, I think this is a real memory, was when I was very young and I was in the garden and I got stung by a bee and I couldn't understand why such a thing, like a sting, existed in life. And then I didn't understand why my parents put mud on my leg, but it did help. So I'm not going to give out medical advice, but apparently in that memory, mud helped. It could also be a dream.
Huh. Like, so you were kind of, uh, and Elaine says, I will hold you to that tomorrow if I ever meet you. Like, have you brought yogurt? Have you?
Are you going to be at Aircon? Because I will be there and I will bring yogurt. It's easy to remember. It's only next week.
Yeah, are you coming to Aircon, Elaine? I am curious. But, so, what's your first gaming memory?
My first gaming memory, that is disappointing. My first gaming memory was playing Monopoly with my brother and my granddad. And as all children do, we basically ignore all properties until it's Mayfair. And all we want is Mayfair. Because I don't think it's really about winning the game. I think it's actually about owning Mayfair. I think that's really what that game is about. It's about, do you own Mayfair or not? And so that was really the objective that we played the game with.
And did you play nominally by the correct rules, even if your motivations were a little and your strategies were a little bit suspect? Did you have auctions? Did you use the terrible house rule of free parking? Did you?
We did use the terrible house rule of free parking. I don't think we understood realistically how to play the game. We just liked moving around, rolling some dice, buying property like a megalomaniac, and then forcing other people to pay us rent, even as a young age.
When would the game end for you?
Well, when someone had Mayfair, but usually when we got so frustrated with each other. My granddad was very diplomatic. After a couple of rounds, he would try his best to just sit in prison so that he did not have to participate in the chaos of this game. So he would be there, honestly, I think he was there just to make sure we didn't hit each other. And we would obviously just keep rolling and occasionally buy like a random Trafalgar Square, places we knew. If we'd heard of them, we'd buy them. I guess that's just how you buy things. So yeah, it would end after about an hour when one of us had Mayfair or the other one was frustrated.
So where did you grow up? Are you a London lad?
I did grow up in Northwest London, yeah. So always been here and still here
So
now.
presumably the London properties really resonated with you.
Yeah. So if there were ones that and what I enjoyed later in life actually is seeing names that I recognized and then going to them in real life. And I was like, oh my God, this place is on the Monopoly board. So the first time I actually went to Mayfair was quite a big, yeah, I just loved to look around. I was like, oh my God, this was the thing that we were trying to buy all those years ago.
Have you been to Park Lane?
I have been to Park Lane.
I mean, I've cycled through Park Lane so many times. I've not walked across it, but like it's a nice place. I mean, I guess I could understand the hotels being very expensive there. Like they are very expensive in real life, I'm sure. Like
Yeah.
golden car dealerships and all that. It seems a bit. It doesn't seem like the nicest place to be, frankly, even though it says right beside the park, admittedly.
Yeah. On reflection, I do then spend time thinking about how I would price things differently. Because for me, a station, much more important. Marylebone Station, that's the thing to have now. I think if I played the game now, I'd play it very differently.
But you'd still just be based on, do I recognize this name or not?
Probably, yeah. I think now I like Trafalgar Square. It's nice to sit there. There's the gallery. You can sit on the steps, see people milling about. That's the thing to buy.
Do you feel like there's a certain mystique based in London because similar to New York, so much media is based here. I mean, songs are written about the streets. There's the Cockney accent, which is kind of romanticized. And is Park Lane the one that has a massive block of flats above a BP garage? Yes, I think that is the one. And it's just to the east of Hyde Park. Yes.
Yeah.
It's just touching Hyde Park. I think there is a BP garage, and there's also some statues that are kind of nice in the middle of the street. I mean, the middle of the road between the two big lanes. But there's a lot of lanes of traffic. I wouldn't want to live beside all that traffic. I'm just saying.
No, definitely not. I am impressed that you recognize it by a BP garage, though. That's not the thing I think about when I think of Park Lane, but that's impressive.
Yeah, it's like, yep, that's where I want to be because they've got it all tangled. Yeah, certainly. That's my American accent. Could you tell that I was even trying to do an American accent?
I knew you were doing an accent.
Okay. So that's how bad it was. You couldn't even tell the nationality. Fair enough. Now, so you mentioned your sibling. You mentioned rivalry. Is it just the one sibling that you've got?
It is, yeah. My brother.
Did you continue playing board games together? Was this a big part of your childhood? At what point did you fall in love with games, would you say? At what point did you say, you know what, these are cool?
I think that was probably university, because what I loved about it is that it just takes you away. Good point. I love that it takes you away from your phone or just screens generally. I know obviously now we play on Tabletop Simulator, Tabletopia, all the great places, but back then it was the thing that just helped you connect with people. And I think it's a great thing to bond over because, sometimes you're sitting in a room and chatting and yeah, that's fine. That goes well. But for me, sometimes to have something to talk around and to build connections over is what I love about board games.
I think it's really interesting what you said there about talking around and building connections over, because I saw a post by someone who was really down on board games saying, why can't we just get together and have the wine and have the snacks but skip the board game? And I think it's true that getting together and chatting, it can be lovely. And I mean, I spent an entire day with someone on Thursday and we didn't play a single board game together. We just kind of went walking and talking and did other stuff together.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. But I think that, if people spend a lot of time, sometimes it's about doing other things together that generates conversation, going to the show together, going to the film together. And it doesn't mean that you're distracting yourself or cutting off yourself off from the other people. I mean, part for me, going to a film together only has value in so much as afterwards you discuss that thing and you analyze it and
Yeah.
then you make the connection. Because being alone together, whilst it's preferable to being alone on your own, it's still not that great.
You're
But
not
with a
interacting.
board game, I mean, setting aside the performative games, which are all about the people, and the aspect of, yes, your actions are directly influencing my actions on the table, like the cards you play. And so it's almost like a conversation through the medium of the game. I can't just carry on. I need to have you be involved for the game to continue. And so you become a vital part of it. The most important component of a game is the people. And I think that, sure, we might shut off conversation for a moment, but by the end, we will have so much to discuss and we will have pitted our wits together. And for me, if you are people approaching a game in a similar way, then I think it can spark so many emotions and connections.
And I think it tells you a lot about the other person. I mean, you can't read too deeply into um, gameplay, but some people are more analytical. Some people are more just go for it. Just try and see if the world will burn. Everyone has a different playing style,
Well,
and
for
I think
sure.
that
Like, I
generates.
will lie all the time in games, and I do this when like, just to say, oh, by the way, I'm outside the magic circle, and I'm actually helping you at this point. This is genuinely what you should do. Just to say, yeah, this is not me just doing table talk. This is generally a good move for you. And but I think that offering us that opportunity to step outside the normal conventions is a powerful thing. It
Yeah.
allows us to not only reevaluate these things, but also see the value in them. Because at the end, we might say, yes, living in a world where I can assume that people are generally telling the truth is a wonderful place to be. And I'm so happy that this is the normal state of affairs, as opposed to assuming that half of the people are lying. Because the truth is, yeah, most people might be misguided, or there might be lots of, sorry to bring this up, hateful people in the world, but most people do not just randomly lie. So we've been chatting for quite a while, and I think that the value of being away from the screen might be something that we can explore a lot more. I don't know how you feel about this. Maybe we could explore that topic tomorrow with yourself and Pearl.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds awesome.
So for now, I would like to turn the tables a little bit. I've asked you so much. So what would you like to ask? Actually, you know what? We've skipped over a bunch of things. So let's wrap this up quickly. Um, so firstly, yes, professional project manager experience. Firstly, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Well, at work, we have a number of projects that are running, and it's just about getting stuff done. Project manager is a title, but I like to think of it as get stuff done.
Mm-mm. You're organizing other people, you're organizing processes, you've got to be really organized, right? Has that helped you in the Cake of Doom process? Are you the project manager for Cake of Doom, would you say?
Well, I actually think deep down, Pearl is the project manager. She is very good at making sure we stick to time. But I think it helps that we both think a very similar way, speak the same language. We love to dive into an Excel spreadsheet to get things organized. I can imagine that if we thought about things quite differently, it would help in some ways, but I think there's a lot of synergy. Oh, I hate the word synergy. I don't know why I said that. I think there's a lot of it's very complementary to work in a similar way.
I like the word synergy. I mean,
Do
for
you?
me, I mean, I understand for some people it's got this business connotation. For me, synergy, it's got this connotation of collectible cards games coming together to be a cool combo. That's what I think of when I hear synergy. But
It makes me think of the show The Apprentice, and oh god.
huh, okay. So very quickly, how did you and Pearl meet? And
Through our job,
why do you like Pearl?
that is putting me on the spot.
It
We
is.
met through work. Although we've never actually worked together, we just worked in the same building, and discovered that we both quite enjoy board games. So yeah, it was.
So now it's your time to compliment Pearl.
Now is my time to compliment. What do I like? I like that she has a boundless enthusiasm.
I love that.
She's always up for trying something, thinking about things, challenging us to be different, and yeah, that's awesome.
And do you think that this is a one-off game design adventure, or do you think you will keep making things if you manage to make this a if this turns out to be something where you manage to pay your own costs at least, and you don't, let's imagine at the end of the day you end up making like 10 quid from it or something like that, where it's clearly not paid for your time, but you're like, okay, people have enjoyed it and we've gotten it out there. Do you think you would make another one?
I think I definitely want to continue creating things that people enjoy, and if it turns out that's a game, if there's lots of love and joy from Cake of Doom, then yeah, it could definitely be something to think about. But what I've taken from this is I definitely enjoy the creative process, so I'd love to keep doing that.
Whatever manner that is, whether that's songwriting or illustration or plays.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Books, anything. I think the being able to challenge myself to think creatively has been super fun.
And the other thing that I wanted to talk about was passions, which we didn't get to. So could you tell me some of your favorite things before we wrap up?
Favorite things before we wrap up? Of course, board games, but also walking. I love hiking. I love getting out there in the fresh air. I really enjoy bouldering. I haven't done that as much as I'd like to, but I do enjoy it, and badminton.
Well, it has been a very unstructured, unfocused thing. And so now I'm going to finally turn it over to you. And so, question of the day, question of the day. Here's a little question before we go on our way. So, Amar, I've asked you lots of questions. What question would you like to ask me and potentially anyone watching?
Oh, I'm worried this is a really boring question, but I love the look of those headphones. Yeah, they are cool looking, and I wondered what you think of them.
These headphones were I'm going to say donated, given to me by a friend. So basically, I had other headphones that got ruined, and at the same time, they had a pair of headphones that had superseded these ones, and they said, you know what, I don't really use these ones anymore. So if you want them, then they're yours. I like wired headphones. For me, that's a big thing. I don't
Really?
like this trend towards wireless headphones.
Oh, I'm completely different. I love to have Bluetooth. You can just walk around, feel freely, move your head.
I can do all this as well. Look, check it out.
How do you connect them to your phone? Or do you? Maybe you have other
With
headphones.
the little headphone thing, I don't like the new. Yeah, with the headphone thing.
Yeah, yeah. More and more I'm seeing phones without that. So I
Yeah,
feel we are pushed.
I'm really not liking that trend. I'm really not liking it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It feels like we're pushed towards Bluetooth. But
Yeah,
thank
not
you for
great.
indulging me.
No. But yeah, I guess the question to everyone else is, how do you feel about wired headphones? Do you prefer wired headphones or wireless headphones? That's what I'm going to ask you. I mean, my stance on wired headphones is like wireless, you'd need to charge them up. You'd
You
need
do.
to remember that. And also, um, there's more to go wrong. They need to sync, and like with wires, it's just plug it in, boop, and it starts working. That's a wonderful thing to me. And the other thing, yeah. So, do you want to make your arguments for wireless headphones?
I do want to make a case for wireless headphones. So I do prefer wireless because you can walk around. I feel like I can easily turn my head. I can do a whole dance if I want to, and I can move freely. So I really like
How am I
that.
not dancing?
Well, I like to dance with my head. I am exclusively a head dancer.
Look, I'm dancing with my head.
I don't like when the cable gets twisted up. I want it to be free. I want to be free of twisting cables. And obviously the aforementioned issue where there's no plug. You've got wired headphones and you can't plug it in, assuming the device is Bluetooth, of course.
Yeah, that's a reason to not buy things that don't have a headphone jack.
Fair.
But yeah, I feel like the thing of you can walk around. I mean, if I'm walking outside, the phone's going to be attached to me. Um, True, I cannot walk to the other side of my apartment and listen to music through headphones. But if I'm listening to music on the laptop in the flat, I'm not going to be putting on headphones anyway, normally. The only reason I've got on headphones right now is to stop the echo. But I am disappointed in you, Elaine, but I still love you. Just to say. Um, but at this point, as always, over to you. What are you up to? You can share. But if you want to, is there something that you need to do, something that you want to do? Please share. I promise that I care. Personally, I'm going to make sure that I avoid the screens for the most of today. I'm going to try, like, after I finish this show, to have less than an hour of screen time for the rest of the day. And I need to go to the bank to get my Swift code because I on my statement I wasn't quite clear what that was or if it was even on there. Um, Other than that, maybe do a bit of tidying, maybe do a bit of considering about the individual auctions for a game about auctioning cubes after winning an auction to be the auctioneer. Um, Maybe doing a bit of reading, potentially through some stuff before I give it away. Maybe doing a bit of solo testing or just some solo gaming. But I'm going to have a screen-free day. What about you? What are you up to?
I think I also want to have a screen-free day. I love reading. I should have thought of that. Maybe that's what I should do. But I think for me, I'm going to try and spend as much time with people. So I'm going to see my parents and yeah, maybe catch in with my brother, ask him if he wants to play a game of Monopoly. That's the plan.
Nice. And Elaine says that presumably R refers to Elaine and Efka. The plan today is to play a lot of Heat and Votes for Women. That's by Tori Brown, and that's a really cool game. I actually invited Tori Brown onto my 1000th show, and I'm excited to have her on as a guest with a lot of other wonderful, awesome people. But I've not played that myself. I'll be curious to know what you think of it. If you is that something that you're going to be reviewing in the next month or so? Because I would be definitely curious to see your thoughts. Regardless, I'm going to recap and wrap up before we finish up. We talked about launching a Kickstarter on Friday. We talked about cakes really being about politics. We talked about enjoying my art, which I absolutely love. We talked about Room 51, We're Not Wizards, Meatful Minded, being on so many things and getting the word out. The idea that you're not normal, you're ordinary, and abnormal folk are extraordinary. I talked about playtests, auctions. We talked about blaming luck and playtesting things in public settings with people who maybe weren't expecting it. Having a weekly meeting with your co-designer. Loving green. The FT weekend, Decrypto, meeples and cards, things that we love. Windows, big windows, being able to see outside, chocolate fudge cake, baking, bringing about a sense of occasion, spicy food, sometimes being a bit too much for us, taking yogurts with us everywhere, being stung by a bee in the garden and having this big philosophical moment of thinking, why does this exist in the world? Why do
Mm.
things exist? Which is very heavy for a small child playing Monopoly with a sibling and a grandparent who's there maybe to prevent you from punching each other in the face after someone wins Mayfair. Living in northwest London. By the way, you should come over sometime. Falling in love at uni. Being away from the screen, something that we will explore more tomorrow. Speaking the same way as Pearl with the boundless enthusiasm that Pearl brings, but falling in love with the creative process, whether that's game design repeated or whether that's some completely different medium, being creative just has so much joy, as does, of course, baking, but also walking, hiking, and badminton. And then we talked about wired versus wireless headphones, and I don't think we're going to reach a consensus on this. It just seems kind of wasteful to me. I mean, putting all this energy in there when you could just stick the wire in. But yeah, oh, it's for the podcast, says Elaine. And thanks for sharing your Saturday morning with us and good luck with the Kickstarter. Yes, 100%. Is
Thank
there
you.
anything else that you would like to say before we finish up, Amar?
Only to say that I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Awesome. Well, for those who are unaware, I am Stuffed by Bez in all of the places. And if you want to know what's coming up, you can, of course, check out stuffedbybez.com/streams, where it will mention that I'm chatting to Mar again tomorrow. And if you want to check out Mar, it's Cake of Doom game, sorry, cakeofdoom.com, I should say, or kickstarter.com/project/cake of doom /cake of doom, or on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. It's the nicely consistent Cake of Doom game. Although I feel like your website should have been Cake of Doom game as well. Hmm.
Mm.
I don't know. It's like, do you? But anyway, where and yeah, at this point, I want to say thank you to everyone. Share, spread the word. And do you have any final words left?
Thank you to you. I really enjoyed the conversation.
As did I. Well, with that, I guess we'll say bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, everyone. Bye bye. Bye bye.